Hello and welcome to the PlusArray community. Today's video we're going to be looking at, can we save Dead by Daylight? This video will be broken down into the following sections. What Dead by Daylight is doing good, what Dead by Daylight is doing wrong, and how can we save it? So guys, let's jump straight into it and have a look at what Dead by Daylight is doing good. So recently it's had a UI update and it looks really clean. I like how they've changed the characters onto the side and being able to see all the characters and how many times they've got left on the hook and how damaged they are, etc, etc. It looks a lot better to play with, and yeah, I think it's a great addition into the game. The regular and continuous DLC updates is a great thing about Dead by Daylight. They're constantly putting out new content, but I'll touch on that later on. But they're constantly bringing out new killers, new survivors. It does bring a fresh feeling to the game each time they bring out one of these new killers, especially the killers, because the survivors, yes, they bring new perks and whatever, but the killers, let's be honest, we want to see the scariest mother going around, right? That's all we care about. So their challenge system is probably the best out there. So what I'm referring to there is where the entity, you can choose between the survivor and the killer, and they have little challenges to get yourself more blood points, thus being able to upgrade your characters more and killers more. I think this system that they have going is very good. It pushes players to want to stay and want to develop their characters, and yeah, you know, to the game itself can get a bit mundane. So this, for players who are wanting to either level fast or to develop their characters, is a great way. I thoroughly think it is really good, and a lot of other games could learn from how they've develop their leveling system in that way. So although that was very short and brief to the point, I'm probably going to be expanding myself a bit more in what Dead by Daylight is doing wrong, because at the moment they're kind of doing a lot of things wrong, and if they want this game to continue, they need to fix a lot of these issues and other issues that I'm not bringing up, and listen to the community. So I'm going to jump in there with some of the things that I think should be definitely fixed, and if not added to the game to help develop it. So let's jump into it. So there's too much going on one game mode. Okay, games like Dead by Daylight I think would thrive much more if it was a little bit more simplistic based and had more going on in such of game modes, but we'll pick up on that in a second. Talking about just that the one game mode, you've got a battle pass, you've got the store, you've got the DLCs, you've got the entity, you've got blood points, you've got characters, killers, perks, maps, offerings, etc. There's more and more going on each time there's just so much going on, right? For a new player coming in and you want to retain, this is too much, right? It's too much to learn, it's too much time and dedication to the game. You can't jump in, you can't just jump out. So you got to have that basis of sitting there learning the game heavily and kind of harshly, really, because you're jumping into the game and you'll be playing against players, which we'll talk about this in a second, but matchmaking, that are way above your player level, and you're expected to learn through the thick of it, really, go through the toxicity, go through round after round, kind of not know what's going on, and then constantly probably dying, right? I know a lot of games do that, but I feel like if Dead by Daylight just brought it back and added, you know, I'll pop into the other points in a second, but added certain tier systems to it. So, you know, so for example, instead of just having, you know, you got your killers, you got your perks or whatever, you can't play as killers until level 10 or level 5. So then you really focus going on to survivors and learning everything about the survivors, and then unlocking killers or unlocking players. So I'll touch on how to fix that in a minute, but let's just keep going through what is actually going wrong with Dead by Daylight. So you got matchmaking or game balancing, really. It needs to be fixed ASAP, okay? A lot of players will say this is not an issue for them, especially at the higher tiers, but down there with me and you know, the lower tiers, so to speak, the rank 20s, hello, this needs to be fixed, right? I jumped into a game the other day where I was rank 20, you know, it was like the 15th or 16th of the month, and it would, you know, just reset, and I was playing with already rank like 7s and 6s. And it is just disheartening because I'm not that good, right? I know I'm not. With a killer who's rank 3 and my teammates being rank 6, 7, and I think it was like level rank 12, and I'm there at rank 20. I'm not helping them, and I'm hindering them at the game, and it brings toxicity towards you. Didn't for me for that game, but it can do, and that can be a big put off for new players. The idea is that the game needs to expand, it needs to bring in more players, and it needs to bring in more. So how are you going to do that? Fix that. Simple. New players play against new players. And if not, if you can't fix or do that, then you need to figure out some other things for the game. Because at the moment, you know, higher tiers, survivors are OP as hell, right? You can jump into Discord and you can talk to the 4 other players if you're like rank 2, 3, 1, whatever. And you can just run around the killers like they're nothing, right? It's not good. And then you have killers at the lower levels who will just kill one player and know that the other teammates are not going to be doing all the generators and kind of figuring out what's going on, and they'll wait around that player until they've died, right? Until that player has been hooked and then taken by the entity. That's not fun. It's not fun jumping into a game and just getting the entity taking you away in the first 15 minutes after the fact of waiting half an hour to join the game. That's another issue. This is what I'm talking about by matchmaking and game balancing, because you should not be waiting half an hour to jump into a game, which, to be honest, isn't worth the 2 minutes of hanging on a hook. So, you also have the last bit with the DLCs, right? So, it is kind of pay to win aspect to it, because some killers are good for certain seasons, and they haven't got the killers and the survivors all mellowed out and balanced, right? They keep adding to the game, but they haven't balanced the game. So you've got survivors who, let's say for example, I play Claudette a lot because I notice that at the lower levels no one wants to heal me, and I seem to get 2 hit very quickly. So I thought if I could hit once, I can go hide. I'm pretty getting good at that now, and healing myself because no one else wants to do it, and it's actually making me have a more survivability rate. I like to play as Claudette, free character, great. But let's say, for example, the Demigorgon is an OP killer. I don't know if it is. I honestly haven't played much killer, to be honest. And I'm just giving that as an example because that's a DLC which you have to pay for. So if you pay for the Demigorgon, and that is going to guarantee you, let's say 3 wins out of 5 or 4 wins out of 5 every time, right? Killing all the killers, getting as much blood points as you can. You're going to play that all the time. So you've paid to win at that point, and that's not fun for any new player coming in. There needs to be that balance and that enjoyment, or even the system where you can purchase the players in other ways. I'll jump onto that in a moment, but yeah, there shouldn't be that pay to win aspect to the game. I don't feel anyway. So a huge problem I have with the game is that there's no PvE or other game modes. I understand a lot of people are not going to enjoy what I'm going to say here, but I'm going to say it anyway. It'd be amazing if they could add this to give the new players the ability to experience the game without going into the bad matchmaking. If you could release the pressure of the poor matchmaking that they have in this game mode, I think players will stay more. You know, if you had a PvE mode or other game modes, I'll talk about what you can do and etc. in a minute about these, but this would help the game and retain newer players and retain players to keep playing for longer. If the game is to continue and to thrive and to survive through all of this, with all these battle royales and other things pulling players in who can just jump into a game mode quickly, this needs to be sorted, because the competition out there is too high, right? I can't think of another game currently with no other game modes, okay? Let's talk about battle royales, right? You've got your Fortnite, you've got your war zones. They've got plunder in war zones. They've got other squads. You've got other ability, other game modes in there that flesh out the game almost, you know. And Fortnite has a PvE mode where you fight the zombies, and you've got a baseline there. That to me is really, really cool, because it gives players who are not so much enjoying the boringness of watching a player build an Empire State Building in front of you and just get shot from the top of it. That's not fun. So you can jump off that. You can jump into the PvE mode and just chill with your friends and have a good time. So you can look at other games as well. You know, you've got Grand Theft Auto, for example, another one that's up there on streaming platforms. You know, they don't just they have a campaign, they have the online battle mode, they've got matchmake, you know, they've got everything in that game. I know, you know, Dead by Daylight is no way stretch of the imagination going to be there, but you know what, there's a noticeable trend with games, and it is that if the game doesn't offer a lot, so for example, Fall Guys, I know we've done that already. It was a one-trick pony. It drops, right? It drops in popularity, it'll drop in viewership on Twitch, meaning that less people streaming it, meaning there's going to be less viewers watching it over time, right? And it's starting to happen to Dead by Daylight right now. And personally, if I can do anything to build up this game, because I think this game has something which no other game or movie in history can do, right? It has all of these amazing horror tropes and killers and survivors. How they've managed to get all the copyrights and everything for these, I have no idea, but it's amazing. Like, it's beyond, and I don't want to see it fail. So if there's any way I can help with that, that's what I'm going to do. Going on from there, then we're going to talk about how we can actually save it. Yes, how we can actually save it. That is going to be by doing the following. So adding a PvE or other game mode. I'm going to give you some examples now. Please don't try to kill me with these. So you got killer versus killers, right? So pleasing the entity in somehow. By that, so you could play as a killer, get the experience as a killer, and killing survivors who are, let's say, an AI instead of them being another player, right? So you'd kill those, you'd do the challenges that the entity has set out for you, and you could get blood points that way. That way you're experiencing the game, you're getting the ability to understand how killers work in the first person aspect, you could understand the perks, you could add those little sections that we talked about before, which I think is too much going on for the game, right? Because a new player isn't going to know what the perks mean and isn't going to know the maps, for example. So you could add that PvE mode there. So for example, then, if you were like, no, I want it to be player versus player. Okay, so you got a killer as me, I could be a killer, and I've got 4 AIs, 4 survivors to kill, right? And they're AIs, and they could just be going around the house. It doesn't need to be doing the generators. You could figure out a way that it was a campaign mode or something that you got to kill them, right? They'll hide, they'll sneak through or whatever, and they've got to get through this area. And you could play against another player there, another killer, right? Who is in a similar situation, and you've got to kill. You've got to kill the survivors before the other survivor does. The other killer does it, right? I know that's not the best way of doing it. That would then give you the ability to learn those difficult things I was talking about, jumping in. So you'd get to learn the perks, you'd get to learn the killers, you'd get to know the characters, you'd understand the blood points, you'd understand the entity and what's going on with the entity, and you could complete challenges, right? It's not overwhelming for a new player to do that, right? So they might jump into the normal entity mode where you've got to do the 5 generators. You don't have to, they might do that and they might experience it in a whole toxic way and not want to jump back in. But if you have the option of going, player versus, killer versus killers, or, a killer that you just get to play by yourself and killing the AI. And yes, I'm not going to say like you get more blood points or more anything. No, just make it less then. Make the PvE less rewarding, but you're giving that player an experience that is tenfold better than just jumping into a game and having rank 3 survivors run loops around you because you have no idea what's going on, right? So that's just one example. I've got another one where you could do playing as survivors, so that you could play with your friends then, 3 of you, playing against an AI killer in a puzzle map, or trying to get out that map in other ways rather than just doing generators, unlocking doors, and when you make noises for those doors, the AI is attracted to that area, so you got to hide. it would force you to understand how, oh, if I hide here, the AI can't see me, or you know, etc., etc. It's just a little idea I had, and it would break down the game for the players. There's different ways to play survivors and different ways to play killers, so having the ability to play in an AI simulated world rather than being player versus player offers a lot more to the newer player to be able to jump in later on into those entity games, and that then will also increase the experience and player base of the killers and the survivors. You know, I can't see how it could go wrong by adding small little game modes like that to entice and retain new players. Please tell me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I really feel like this would be an amazing addition to the game. So balancing matchmaking, I touched on it before, it needs to be sorted, right? How can we save it? Balance the bloody matchmaking. Simple, right? It's hurting new players, okay? The system that is happening right now, it makes players not want to come back in and not play the game again. Simple. It is. No one can argue with me with that, because it is in the data shown. It's not just hurting the new players, it's also hurting the players who have purchased the DLC, who are enjoying the game and trying to support the devs in this. So they're purchasing every single DLC that comes out, but they're then finding that, hey, 4 DLCs down the line, that the character that they bought, the Demigorgon, who was really overpowered, is now useless and redundant in the game. And the characters who are survivors, I can't remember, is it Nancy and Steve? Those 2 players are no longer even an option for survivors. You got a DLC which is worth about £5.19, right? And it's no longer worth anything because you can't play it, right? Because you can't play them in the ranked mode, because you have no other way of playing with those characters, right? So that's what I'm saying. If you had the Demigorgon in an AI simulated game in a PvE world that you could play with, it might be a lot more fun, and the players could really push the boundaries of what those characters can do, you know, using those perk systems in there and really playing around with them a lot more at the lower levels, you know, and maybe new metas come through, who knows, right? But without having a way to use those DLC characters, you've wasted £5, right? You've wasted it. I just looked then, it's £110 on Steam to buy everything related to Dead by Daylight. That's an insane number for a game which just offers one thing and repeatedly over and over again one thing. Beyond me, beyond why anyone that they allow that. You know, maybe there's ways to in the game make it easier for you to get money in the game, so to speak, or in-game currency to purchase the DLCs. I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe it is. I'd have to look it up after, but that it's hurting the game, right? Imagine you've spent £110 on this game, supporting this game, and they haven't even balanced the matchmaking for one game mode that they offer. And the match waiting time. This needs to be sorted. I don't know if they need more servers, or if I think it's more players they probably need, because clearly at the lower ranks, players aren't able to play with higher tier ranks. You get put in with higher tier ranks. That shouldn't be happening. It is all of this together combined is hurting the game because it makes you not want to come back to it. Lastly, this one is for Behavior Interactive, the devs. They should listen and give back to the community. So what they could do is Twitch streamers, give them codes for, you know, if 5 codes for a customable character in the game, clothes, and that if they watch this stream or whatever, they'll get the code to put on in the game, right? So you're encouraging players to watch the game, watch Dead by Daylight streamers, so you're giving back to the community who already spent 100 odd quid on you, and then you're developing that fan base. So players who, oh, you know, they don't want to make a P. Let's say that, you know, let's say Behavior Interactive don't want to make the PvE mode that I'm suggesting and don't want to do the balancing, and you know, newer players are put off by the sheer amount that's going on and the difficulty level that is in the game. They can watch a streamer do it and understand the game a lot more, right? And then get rewarded for watching that streamer rather than being forced to purchase the game, forced to purchase the DLCs, finding out half of them redundant, then, you know, going, oh, I've just spent nearly 30 hours and I haven't even played the bloody game yet because I'm researching how to do all this stuff. Like, this could be a way to, you know, that the devs could give back to the community, and also playtime can give you DLCs. I don't know if this is a thing, but I think that should be a thing if it isn't already, that the game time you go in there is easy to obtain these things over a certain period of time. And yeah, so you're rewarded for then the grind. If you're saying, hey, we're not going to give you PvE modes, we're not going to balance the game, we're not going to fix the issues, we're not going to give you a good tutorial of the game, but what we're going to do is we're going to give you parts of the game that you would normally purchase for free. When you know, level up a character level 50, you get 1,000 points or whatever that can purchase you a new DLC for the game. And it would help it would just help everybody. I think that would be a great thing that they could do. And listen to the community. If they don't listen to how they need to fix this game, people are going to give up on the game and they're going to find something else to play. It's simple as, right? People are enjoying the sneaking ability about it, the killing in it. They'll find something else. They'll find another game where you can be as savage and as stealthy as Dead by Daylight, and they're going to lose it all. They're going to lose all this fan base, and for what? Honestly, for what? This one is on the devs. They have all the information in front of them. They know how many players are coming in. They know who's purchasing the game, who's playing the game. Are they playing on an Xbox? Are they playing it on Steam? Whatever, right? But they need to sit down and go, okay, releasing content after content after content isn't working, because now the game is starting to decrease tenfold. It is in dire straits, and although, you know, there's 35,000, 40,000 people watching the streams, that was up at 60, 70,000 at one point, you know, like, and the streamers that are on there are, you know, the first stream I just jumped on has nearly 4K views. So that drops it down heavily, you know, if they go offline. It's not retaining the viewers, it's not retaining the players either, and they need to really figure this out, and I hope they can. I really, really hope they can, because Dead by Daylight seems to be something that is really fun, and every time I talk to our community about this, they always say, hey, back in 2017, this game was actually fun, this game was really, really cool, and it had a lot of promise, and now it's just fallen into the same thing of battle pass, add more things into the game, rather than adding more content to the game, and just keep releasing DLCs for them to purchase, and that will just tide us over. It's gone beyond now. They need to sort this. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching. If I've missed anything or gone over something which wasn't relevant or wasn't true, please let me know. Please feel free to let me know in the comments below. As always, welcome to PlusArray community, and thanks for watching. Nostar!